Let's get an overview. Check in right now with Chief White House Correspondent John Roberts at the President's Mar-a-Lago Resort. Good evening, John.
Good evening to you, Brett. This is scheduled to start at 6 o'clock. I'm told it will likely start just a few minutes late, so we do have some time to speak to you to set it up. The big thing to come out of this summit was only tangentially attached to it, and that was the news that broke last night that the CIA director, Mike Pompeo, back on Easter weekend, made a trip to Pyongyang in North Korea to sit down for personal talks with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to try to set the stage for an expected summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un that the president says could happen sometime in either late May or early June. The president has been talking in very optimistic terms about the possibility for that sit down, and now we learn the reason why is because he said the meeting between Pompeo and Kim was very successful. Listen to what he said earlier today.
He just left North Korea, had a great meeting with Kim Jong-un, and got along with him really well, really great. And he's that kind of a guy. He's very smart, but he gets along with people.
The president said a good relationship was formed with North Korea. Yesterday, he indicated that there was a measure of respect that North Korea had for the United States, but certainly there are questions yet to be unanswered, such as will North Korea take any confidence-building measures ahead of the expected summit with the president, such as releasing the 3 Americans who continue to be detained there? And what was it that was said to Pompeo during that meeting, Brett, that has the president so optimistic now that North Korea is serious about denuclearization?
Yeah, John, I tell you, this a lot of issues, as I mentioned, coming in. Trade, a big item on the agenda today as well. What can you tell us about that?
And this was probably the thorniest issue between the two leaders. I mean, clearly Japan is worried that they want to have their interests represented at any meeting with Kim. But when it comes to trade, Japan would like to see the United States back in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But President Trump is saying, look, we've got bilateral trade deals with 6 of the 11 nations, and we think we need to have a new free trade deal with Japan. Shinzo Abe doesn't like that too much. He's reluctant to get into a free trade agreement with the United States. But the president is pressing hard, saying, look, we've got an enormous trade deficit with Japan, and his mantra about trade and new trade deals that he plans to spend this year crafting, Brett, have to be free, fair, and reciprocal. Listen to what the president said.
We have a massive deficit with Japan. We will, I believe, at the end of a fairly short period of time, be able to do certain things. I know they're ordering large numbers of airplanes, both jet fighters and passenger planes, and it's in the tens of billions of dollars.
That trade deficit is currently running at about $69 billion a year. We expect that the Japanese press will have some questions for President Trump regarding steel tariffs that have been that are targeted at Japan. Tariffs on steel and aluminum, Japan being one of our only big allies, Brett, that would be subject to those tariffs.
2 leaders golfing today down there in Florida. Last thing, John, you know, we often talk about how the news cycle is like drinking from a fire hose, and a lot of it depends on what the president's tweeting. Today, not only Shinzo Abe on his mind, but maybe some questions about what he tweeted about James Comey and also Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, clearly James Comey has been on his mind since he's on his book tour and giving all of those interviews. And I know your interview with Comey is coming up in the near future, Brett. But the president tweeting today about Comey and Russia, saying slippery James Comey, the worst FBI director in history, was not fired because of the phony Russia investigation, where, by the way, there was no collusion except by the Dems, which would stand in sharp contrast to an interview that he gave with Lester Holt a year ago, in which the president said when he went to fire James Comey, he was thinking about, quote, that Russia thing. And the president also tweeting for the first time today about Stormy Daniels after Stormy Daniels and her attorney, Michael Avenatti, released that sketch of a mystery man who Stormy Daniels claims threatened her if she were to say anything about President Trump. Tweeted out this morning was a comparative photo of that sketch with a man that Stormy Daniels once dated there on the right, prompting President Trump to say a sketch years later about a non-existent man, a total con job, playing the fake news media for fools, but they know it. Tonight, Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' attorney, is threatening to file a defamation suit against the president. Don't know if that topic will come up tonight, Brett, but that's what's out there.
All right, John, thank you.